at this juncture, I'd like to open the discussion to the floor for our audience also to participate in terms of providing their views on the budget post its delivery. So, who has something to say?
Lerato, perhaps while people are summoning up the courage. I mean, I know these things are controversial, but I don't think the social grants are in fact enough. I mean, if you get 1,100 Rand a month, if you're an unemployed person, or if you're a retired person or disabled, tiny childhood grants. I mean, I think we should be having a national conversation about whether those shouldn't be significantly increased and the shortfall funded through sale of national assets. I mean, if we were to carve off a piece of the Kruger National Park, sell it off to Richard Branson, if we were to put another row of housing at the back of Table Mountain. I mean, I know these things are controversial, and in some conversations you'd be shot for saying things like that. But, you know, to some extent, one's got to challenge the status quo.
Yeah, definitely the Table Mountain.
Sorry, I have to respond to that. If we do that, we're going to run out of assets. The social challenge is too big for us to deal with on a sustainable basis. The economy must solve the problem. Right. And obviously, as a business organization, we have to say that. But it's an economic reality, I'm afraid, as well.
Okay, we'll continue with this in a second. Yes, sir?
Paul, just a quick question. I know this is also something that you like to talk about quite often, is the balance between creating more jobs, but then also having this huge group of unemployable youth, you know, one way or another. Just going to get some comments on that.
Yeah, it's one of South Africa's great sort of unspoken tragedies, but we spend nearly 200 billion Rand a year in the education system, and what we get out the other end is not what we'd like. I mean, we don't have an army of entrepreneurial self-starters with great skills that we can plug into economy and get going. Businesses often complain about how they have to take young people on and basically start from scratch. So I'm not all that positive about the short-term outlook with regard to job absorption in the economy, because as a business you can only do what you can do with what you've got. But I'm hopeful that things improve over time. So I know that the ministers responsible for these areas have massive challenges, and I really do think we need to do better in that area.
Okay, wearing my hat now as the PR agent for the minister, he did announce yesterday 14 billion rands to be allocated to further education colleges, 20 or so billion for sector education training, and 5 billion towards a skills fund. So they are taking the whole issue of youth empowerment, skills enabling issues very seriously. Would it help throwing money at some of these issues?
Definitely so, provided we stay true to the State of the Nation address where the 3 T's approach was mentioned. Our concern in the past has been that we throw increasing sums of money at education. It's the largest component of the budget this year and has been for many years, if one goes back historically, but we're not seeing the difference on the ground in terms of actual skills development. And I mentioned the productivity versus compensation numbers earlier. That's also a consequence of the level of skills not being appropriate. So we do welcome this. We believe that in this budget there was a lot stronger focus on actually turning the money into implementable programs, and that we welcome. But again, over the next year we'd have to test the level of success, and of course it's going to determine our long-run ability to compete on a global perspective.
Skills for money for skills and vocational training?
Very important. Of course, I don't think we should just look at that. You should really think where you start from, and therefore it's very important to look at the school system right from the beginning, and it will take time. You know, I think we talk about a generation or more.
Okay, very quick comments just by way of what we do now that we have the budget, we have the information at our disposal. How can we make South Africa shine?
Well, the first thing we need to set in mind is that the next budget needs to be a performance assessment. If we have that in mind, then all parties, government, business and labour, will work a lot more aggressively than they have in the past towards achieving what was set out in the budget. And the Minister didn't actually mention that, but I think it would fare him well if he does use the next budget speech for something of a performance assessment. And of course, we can get Minister Colin Shabane to also jump in on that front. But that has to be done. There has to be fixed targets. Right. Then things will start to move along. But a lot has to be done in 2 years, the remaining term of the Zuma administration, and we need to see a lot more concrete plans in terms of making a difference on that period, a difference on the ground, not at the policy level so much.
Well, in terms of a winning nation, I think we should start at 11 o'clock this morning. I'm thinking if we win the toss, then Amla and Callis need to come to the party. If it goes the other way, then Mornay, Morkel and Steyn, you know, I think beating the West Indies this afternoon is the appropriate place to start as a winning nation.
Dr. Botha?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think also important, really, if I think about what's holding the economy back at the moment, and I have to pick out one thing, it's just that the level of confidence is not there. And it's really a case of government and the private sector itself trying to build up confidence, and then we will see the economy starting to move rapidly forward.
Let me thank you for your time this morning, Dr. Johan Botha, Senior Economist at Standard Bank, Paul Theron, CEO of Vestact Securities, Neren Rau, CEO of the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Let me thank our audience also for being here with us this morning and just being with us as we interrogate the budget 2011-2012.